Hello, it's Eric here. Thanks for joining me today for this crash course on local storage. And just like my other crash courses, the goal is to fit as much information about local storage as I possibly can in roughly an hour. Might go a little bit longer, but it'll probably be at least an hour because I have a lot to show you. So let's start by talking a little bit about what is local storage. And the best way I can describe local storage is it is a way to persist data with your browser. So basically your browser works as, I look at it as like a database really. You store data in local storage and then you can access it later. So like for instance, if you go to a website and you notice that, for instance, there's a PDF generator that will compress your PDFs, and it'll tell you after 3 times your free allotment has been used, and no matter if you refresh your browser or close it, you go back and it's please pay us because we know that you've used this much. It's actually using local storage to track you, or type of cookies are very similar if you've heard of a cookie. But we're talking about local storage because it's a little easier to use, and one of the differences between local storage and cookies is with local storage you don't have to set a expiration date. Okay, so now that being said, there are 4 methods to local storage. The first one is setting an item. So to place something inside of local storage, you set item. The next one is to get the item. So you want to get it back. You want to check and see if there's something there. Then you can do something with that data, and that's called get item. And I'm going to cover all these in depth with you, of course. I just want to go briefly over them before I get started. The next thing is removing an item, and that's just removing one key or anything associated with that key one at a time. And then you can also use clear storage, the 4th method, which gets rid of everything in local storage. Okay, so one other thing I want you to know is that it stores data as a string. And I'm going to talk more about that as we go, but basically if you have an object or an array, which you can store in local storage, some people don't know that. All you have to do is basically convert it to a string, and then when you get it back from local storage, you'll convert it back to an array or an object or something like that. All right, so let's get started. First of all, I'm using Visual Studio Code. You can use any text editor for this. This one's free. It's good for Windows or Mac. So if you don't have one chosen already, I highly recommend this one. And I'm going to create a HTML document by hitting the exclamation point and hitting tab, and that just gives me some default stuff to get started with. And then now what I want to do is go ahead, and I already have this created in the same folder, which is app. I want to connect that, and we do that right before our closing body tag. So if you actually do, you can do this one here, and then we'll say app.js. First thing I always do when I connect my app is I just log something, such as works or something like that. And then to get we're going to be using the Chrome dev tools, not the Chrome dev tools, the inspection tools, Chrome Inspector for a lot of this tutorial. You can open that by hitting Control or Command and then Option and J. And then we're going to look at the console here real quick. So when I refresh this page, which is my index that I created, this page right here, I should see this console log of works. That's the goal right now. Perfect, and I do. So first of all, what we want to do is go ahead and start by doing the very first one, which is we want to add an item to local storage. Okay, and we're going to do that by saying set item. The reason I wrote window, I'll cover with you right now. It won't look so weird when you know why my brain did that. Is because local storage is actually part of the window object. So I'll show that to you in just a second, but this will work now. Okay, and we don't see anything in our console because we didn't log anything, but if we go over to this tab and we go to application, we can see in local storage, right here, click it down, that see, there's a few things in here. Stuff from my PayPal. Let's get rid of some of this stuff. Oh, there's the name right there at the top. Okay, I didn't see it. It was kind of, from my mind went right past it. So you can see it says name Eric. Now, if I go in here and I say name equals John, and refresh, you'll see that it actually replaces name with John, right? And now that's stored in my local storage. What's really cool is I can refresh my browser here, and you see I'm refreshing. It's happening really quick, but it's staying there. So like my browser now knows that it thinks that the name associated with what I put in is John. It also persists beyond a close. So now if I reopen it and I get my DevTools open, you're going to see that it still says name John, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So I actually use this a lot of times, and I'm going to cover this with you in a minute, but I actually use this a lot of times for kind of like faking authentication. So you could like ask somebody their name, you figure out what it is, and then you could store it in local storage, and then you could like keep saying hi back to them, or you could say like, hi John, thanks for coming, or something like that. Okay, so now back to the window thing, because I don't want to get carried away, and I did really want to show this to you because it's important. Local storage is actually part of the window object. It's really cool. So if I do that and I put in here, say Sarah, and save again, you'll notice it still works. See how it switched it to Sarah? Window is an optional thing that your browser will already know. So if you just do local storage, it works, but you can also say window. For instance, like, let me give you an example. Have you ever seen the alerts in JavaScript? And you say hello, like that. And so it says hello like that, right? You can also do window.alert because it's part of the same object. Sweet. So that's where the local storage lives, is in the window. I think that's helpful to know. It's like, where did it come from? It kind of came from the magic, from the air. And if you want to, I always recommend this. You don't have to do this because it's kind of stressful to look at this stuff, but if you're getting more familiar with JavaScript and you want to check this out, log the window and check it out. There's actually a bunch of things in here. If we go back to the console, look at all the stuff that's in here. For one, we go down here. I mean, there's just so many stuff, like the screen size and just a bunch of different stuff. And local storage is in here somewhere. Here's the alert, which we just did. And I'm sure if you relook at this video later, you'll see local storage. It's in here somewhere. Let's go back up here, on mouse over. These are all events right here. On click. I might have passed it. It's for some reason, I wonder if I can. Never actually tried. Oh, there we go. Locate, local. Here we go. Here's look. I'm getting carried away on this, but I do kind of want to show it to you. Local storage right here. See? Oh, it's even showing it in there. I didn't realize I never came back here after I stored something there, but it's actually showing it in there because I stored it. So it's saying name Sarah there too. But I prefer to see it over here in application, and you can actually delete it from here by highlighting it and hitting delete. Right? So now it's no longer there. It doesn't know who I am anymore. So if I refresh, it's no longer there. Cool. So let's go back to storing that in there. And what we'll do is I'll go name Eric. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll get the name back. So let me store that real quick. Refresh. Okay. Now, for the sake of not, so like, like it's not even there. The application is going to read it. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say var name equals, so we want to get information from there. So I want to say get name from local storage. Okay. And so I'm going to say name equals local storage dot get item. And the item I want to get is name. Remember we said name. So now what I can do is I can log it, or actually let's alert it. So we'll say alert. I'm going to use template literals. I'm going to say hello, and then I'm going to do the $, and then put name in there. That's the variable I have right here, right? So whatever this evaluates to gets stored in this, and then I say it right here. So it should be saying hello Eric right now. And it does. It says hello Eric, right? Isn't that cool? So I can print that to the DOM as well. If I want, let's go over here and put like div, and I'll name the div, let's do this. Div dot name, and here I'll put like an h1, I could actually just make the div in h1, which would be fine too. Probably be better. Less syntax. Okay. So now inside here, what I can do is I can inject that in there. So what I'll do is instead of alerting it, I'll just say hello. So let's do this. Inject saved. Oops. Not typing very well today. User name into the DOM. Okay, so how we're going to do that is I'm going to say document dot get element by ID, and the ID is going to be name. That's what we named it over in the thing. So I'm going to say actually let's use our query selector. I like that better. We can do it with either one, but let's do query selector quotes hashtag name dot inner HTML, or you could say inner text, either one, and we're going to equal it to name. Okay, so check this out. So if I refresh here, it didn't go in for some reason. Let's check it out here again. Something's happening. Let's see if we get an error in our console log. Proper inner HTML of null. Oh, I put a class here. Sorry about that. This is supposed to be an ID. You could use a class if you want. You just have to change your selector on the other side. Why did I do that? ID. Okay. Refresh. There we go. So it says Eric. And actually, we could do that same template, literal syntax here. We could say hello, hello. And then we'll do $, curlies, and then that. Okay. So pretty cool, right? Now check this out. If I go over to application and I remove this key over here, and I refresh, because now it's no longer in local storage, we're going to get null, right? Because it doesn't exist there. So what we can do is I can check to see if it's there. So let's do this. So I'm going to say, let's see, do this real quick. Check if name is in local storage. Okay. So I'm going to say if no name, or sorry, local storage, we have to have the no. This reverses it. So this takes a little bit of knowledge of JavaScript. So local storage, triple equals, not triple equals. There's no dot get item name. Do name here like that. Okay. And so what we're basically saying is if name does not exist in local storage, then what we want to do is we want to alert no name in local storage. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have an else. Okay. So the else, so I don't get an error in the DOM. See, I got that error saying there was like, well, I got null. I didn't get an error because it just goes in as null. So else, let's inject it into the DOM, okay? So here, if there is a name, let's inject it, okay? That's basically what it's saying. So let's alert real quick, or let's get our alert. No name in local storage. Oh, dang, okay. So what we could do is put a little program here to ask for the name. Program or script or whatever you want to call it to ask for name, okay? So what I'll do is I'll do this, is I'll say prompt, right? Because prompt will ask you for something. Prompt, we want to say, let's say, what is your name? Okay, let's see what that does real quick. Make sure, and let's get rid of the alert. We don't really need the alert. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Prompt, what is your name? Eric. That's not going to do anything because I didn't save it yet. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say this. I'm going to say var result equals prompt dot whatever this comes to. So when this comes back, it'll log it. So let me log it real quick so you can see this result. Okay, so there's not going to be a name. I'm going to say my name is Eric. And then you can see it logs here. Of course, it's still not in local storage yet. So if we go back over to our application, you'll see that it's not here. But we want to add it after we get it, right? So I got it right here, and I want to add it. So what I can do now is I can put it inside there. So now I'm going to do basically the same thing I did before. Is I'm going to say I'm going to set item, right? So I'm going to say local storage dot set item, okay? And the item is going to be result, okay? And we need the result to go back in. Well, notice it's just name, right? If we go back to the log, in order for our program to work, we have to put it in with the key of name. And we're putting it in as, so if we just put in Eric, it just comes back as one string, and we need it to be like, basically like an object, right? So what we can do is when we set it, we'll do what we did earlier is we'll say name is going to be equal to result, like that. Okay, so now it should be there. However, this else isn't going to fire off, right? Because it's in the else and it actually hit this condition. So let's try this real quick to see if it goes into local storage, okay? I hit OK. And then now we'll go back to application. And we can see it says name Eric. Perfect. But it's not showing over here, right? So we're going to basically repeat this thing in this else after we get the name from put into local storage, okay? So but we need to get the item to, so that already ran before that would happen. Here's what we're going to do. The easiest way to do this is we could do this. We could have it here. Let's copy it with the pseudocode that we wrote. We could have it here. And we could have it here. Okay, and this will work, but I want to show you a cleaner way to do this. And this is going to work. So it says hello Eric because it's there. Let's delete this again and refresh. And it's not there, so it's going to ask me. So I'm going to say Sarah. And it says hello Sarah. And I can refresh or I can close my window and it's still going to be there, which is great. This program is working. But let me show you a little cleaner way to do this. Let's create a function because notice this is being repeated. And if you've ever heard of the word dry, D-R-Y, you want dry code. This is what we're going to do. We're going to dry this up, right? So what we're going to do is dry stands for don't repeat yourself. And that's what's happening here on a very small scale is we're repeating ourselves. So what we can do is I'm going to write a function called const, let's say inject, let's say get and inject. We want to be descriptive name. So get from local storage and inject into DOM the name, and I'm going to set it to this arrow function. And of course you could write this with a regular function syntax if you're kind of used to older JavaScript, but I like the new arrow syntax, so I'm going to use that. But it's just a function, and this function is going to take this stuff right here, like this, and put it right here. And we'll format this so it'll indent it nicely. And then we'll get rid of it from here. And then what we'll do is we'll call this function now in both of these and invoke it. That's what the parens are for, to invoke it. And then if it were me, I probably would like to have this up here above the ifs. It's not really going to matter, but let's take a look. Okay, so Sarah's there. It's working. Delete, refresh. Ask me for my name. Perfect, Eric. Okay, cool. So that's doing the trick. So now let's do this. Okay, so one other thing I want to point out is local storage is actually identical to session storage. All the methods are the same. So if I say session storage, what's going to happen is it'll act identical, right? Okay, so it's going to say, what's your name? I'm going to say Eric, and it's actually going to go down into here, okay? Now what's going to happen is when I refresh, it's going to save it, okay? But when I open the window, it will not. When I close the window, it just goes away. So that's the difference between session and local storage. It's a very small distinction. It's basically you can't close your browser window with session, and with local or with local storage, you can. Okay, cool. So one other thing I want to show you real quick is how to remove an item, okay? So let's actually do this real quick. Let's create a button over here, and the button will be remove name, okay? And what we'll do is we'll give it a ID of, sorry, keep in hashtag equals remove. Okay. And so we'll go over to app and we'll do document. We need an event listener. So I'm going to say, this is going to be remove item, remove name, event listener. Okay. And I'm going to say document dot get element by ID, or actually let's use our query selector again. It's nicer. Going into my old habits, and then hashtag remove. And then we're going to say dot add event listener. The event listener is going to be click. And then we're going to do another function here, like so. That's our callback function. So when remove gets clicked, this callback function fires off. This is what happens here. Remove from local storage. Okay. Let's say name. Nope. Okay. So now, what I like to do, anytime I make an event listener, if you watch any of my other videos, you know this is true. I just like to say works first. So let's see, make sure the button's going to work. Okay, so take a look at our console, remove name, and it works. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So this is working out great. All right, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and remove it from local storage. How about that? So it's actually identical to, oh, let's go back to sessions. Let's get rid of the word session and go back to local. It's the same thing again, but we want to do local. That's what this video is about. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to set it to remove item. And I copied it because I wanted you to see it's like identical. Okay, so now let's open up our application. And you can see my name is there. It says hello Eric. And now I'm going to remove it. It's not going to remove from here because that code already ran that injected it from here, but we will remove it from there in a second. But you will see it disappear from here immediately over here in the inspector. So I'm going to hit remove name. And oh, I'm in session storage. We're not removing from session storage. We're removing from local. Okay, let's try this again. So local. Oh, it's staying there. Let's see what happened. Oh, it left now. Okay, see, it's gone. So if I refresh, it's going to ask me again, what's my name? I'll say Tiffany. Okay. All right, so now Tiffany's over here, and then I'm going to remove the name. You can see it go away. And what I don't like about this, so I demonstrated you how to remove name, right? So that's great. Now what I want to do is I want to actually have it ask me again for my name. Because I don't have one anymore, right? So what I can do is I could take this code here that I have up here that just says if no local blah blah blah, no nothing in local storage name, then ask me and then set it and then inject name, right? So I could just take all this, and that's not a problem. I could put it right down here, but again we're running into this dry problem because now I'm repeating myself. But let's make sure it works. Let's start by removing it, and then it'll ask us for our name again. Okay, so remove name, and then let's do Larry. Okay, so Larry's in there. Let's remove name again, and you see it's gone. It actually didn't inject anything over here yet. So it says what's your name. If I hit cancel, it's gonna say null, right? So if I do let's go back to John. Okay, and then if I remove name again, it's gonna say what's your name. I'm gonna say Frank. Okay. And so it's really working now. It's kind of doing what I want, but I have this issue with this dry code because this was repeated twice, right? It's repeated here and repeated here. So what I want to do is I want to make another function, and I'm going to call this const get. We have get inject name. So that's already what we want to do is we want to well, this is actually just injecting. So this actually was not a very good. This is not getting it. It's just injecting it. So let's just say inject name here, okay? Because my next one, notice I changed it everywhere, but it should still be working exactly how we want. Remove name, blah, blah, blah. Yep, that works. Okay. The reason I renamed it, and this happens all the time when you're programming, is you realize you kind of need a better name, is because I'm going to, right now I'm going to get name here. I'm going to take this code, these 3 lines here, and I'm going to say ask for name, and const ask for name, and then I'm going to do this, equal it to an arrow function. Okay. And then so I'm going to take this code right here, and I'm going to put it right here. Okay. And I'm going to get rid of this down here. And then I'm going to say here, so I'm going to say ask for name. Okay. Like that. Okay. And then I'm going to ask for name here. Now, this is going to do exactly what it did a second ago. Let's check it out. Refresh. Remove name. Let's put back in Becky. Okay. Now, let's just check it one more time. Let's do Jason. Okay, cool. Now, what I could do, I could leave it exactly like this. This is very descriptive. So if there is no name, ask for name, and then inject it. But notice, anytime I ask for a name, I need to inject it anyway. So if I wanted to, I could clean up my code a little bit more, and I could just say, I want to inject. Every time I ask for a name, I want to inject. So I could get rid of inject on both of these if I wanted to, and the program will act exactly the same if I just put it in here. I'm going to leave that completely up to you, but that works too. I mean, this is just how programs are. You can just like infinitely rearrange them any way you want. So let's do Dominic. Cool. And that's my son. So let's do my wife. Let's do Oksana. Perfect. Cool. So now this is a pretty clean program. And a lot of times when I'm coding, I will have like these notes of what I'm doing, or at least when I'm teaching too. I don't do that so much anymore. And at the end of the code, a lot of times I'll get at least rid of the ones that are inside of functions or inside of if conditions to clean it up. So I'll do that now. I'll leave the ones above because I sometimes do kind of like those above there. So we could do that, do that. Okay. So now we can say this was ask for name. Okay, cool. So I hope you guys like that. I think it's really cool. This is a sweet little program to just you know, find out who people are basically, and then put it in the DOM and say hi to them or whatever. So let's do something else here. Let's get rid of this for a second and do this. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about if I have objects. So let's say I have, and I don't know what we're going to do with this stuff, so let's just say, yeah, let's get rid of this real quick. Div, let's do dot or hashtag container. Okay, so now what I can do here is I can say, and we'll use the container in a second, but let's talk about like storing objects in arrays or something. So if I wanted to, I could say var house equals objects, like kind of relate to like things in your life, like a car. You could like relate it to a thing in your car. I mean, in programming, you might be doing something else, but let's say we have a house and our house has like rooms or something in it. And that's what the object I want to store is. I'm going to kind of do like this analogy here. So I'm going to say kitchen. And the kitchen is going to have, let's just say kitchen, let's say is going to have like square feet. And it's also going to, let's make up something here. Doesn't really matter. Oh, that's a really big square. Ah, that's good. Yeah, let's go with the small. Yeah, maybe it's small. I don't know. But it's not huge. Now we're going to go with, let's say color. We'll do square feet and color. Color is going to be, I don't know. Let's say it's yellow. Yellow kitchen. So now we're going to have a few other rooms, for instance, like this. And I'm going to say this one, the kitchen, we'll say master bedroom. Okay. So if I say master bedroom, and it really doesn't matter what we put here, it's all for example. So let's say we have a huge master bedroom, and this one's white. And now I want to store this in local storage for later, okay? So I'm going to say local storage dot set item. and the item is going to be the house, right? So you would think, you would be like, I want the house to go in. I'm just going to put it in like that. That would be like, that's probably what 100% of people think, and you're actually correct. It's going to go in similar to that, but that's not going to work. Let's take a look at what it does. Okay, local storage. It didn't go in at all. It probably got an error in the console. Yeah, it won't do it. Yeah, it takes one. So it takes two parameters. Let's say the house is equal to house and see if that works. It's not going to work because I'm trying to put in an object, but let's take a look. I just want to see what happens. Go back to application. And it goes in as object. So you think like, oh, I did get something in there. Maybe I can get it out and there's something there. Wrong. All that really is that it didn't work. Kind of like it just kind of put in an object and named it object. Okay. What you have to do is you have to stringify this variable of house. So you're going to say JSON.stringify. The reason we say JSON is because JSON is a string, and if I do it like that, notice it's going to go in. Right? Now it's all there. So when I get it back, it'll also come back as a string. So let's comment this out. And if I say let house or var house, I was using vars earlier, but I guess we can switch to lets. Doesn't really matter. Should have been using lets from the beginning. Let house equal local storage dot get item, and we named it house, so I'm going to say house. Okay, so that's actually going to be okay. So it's going to get it back, but it's going to come back as a string, which is a little unusable. So let's take a look at it. If we console logged it, and so it looks like that. And now I can't really access stuff like I could with an object, right? Because if I wanted to log just the kitchen square feet with an object, I could say house.kitchen.square feet, right? And this is of course what we want to be able to do. So I'm going to show you how to do it in a minute, but let's take a look and see what happens here. So I cannot read property square feet of undefined. That's because house is a object right now. So what we need to do is we need to change it back to a object. So I'm going to say house. I'm just going to transform it. Like I'm going to house equals. I'm going to store it back to itself, but I'm going to parse it. So I'm going to say JSON.parse, and I'm going to say house. Okay. So now house here is going to be an object, and it's going to be an object by the time it gets to this console log. So let's take a look at what we got. And we got undefined. I wonder why. Parse house. Okay. And that's why we need a let to kitchen.square feet. Maybe I wrote it wrong. Square feet, square. Yeah, I wrote square wrong. Okay. So now it should be there. Cool. And I got 232. And if I want the color, I can say color. Right? Yellow. Perfect. So this is pretty cool. We can also do arrays, which are not a problem either. It's the same concept. So let's go ahead and put an array in. And the array will be, let's say, var cars equals, and we'll just say Tesla, didn't spell right, Tesla, probably gonna spell this wrong too, Mercedes, that looks right. Let's put in Jag, I don't know how to spell that, Jaguar, I spelled Jaguar. No, I didn't spell that right. Okay, I know that's spelled wrong. Please forgive me for that. But let's go ahead and put it in. This is all for the house. Let's just actually take this up here. Okay. Put that in here. Okay. Now we're just working with this right now. So we're going to stringify cars. Okay. Okay. First of all, let's see what happens. Okay. So go back to application. Oh, it went in. Perfect. That's what we want. Now notice, what do we name it? Name? Cars. Oh, we didn't. Oh, we put it in as house. Crap. Okay. Let's put it in as cars. That's why I overwrite house. House says house over here. Okay, so now we have cars. And let's get our house back, because I want to show you something with this in a second. So let's get our house back the way it was. Okay, so we should have a house and cars. Okay, so we have a house, which is an object of objects, and cars is just an array. Okay, cool. So now what we can do is we're going to get that. We're going to work just with the cars for a second. So I'm going to comment this back out because it's irrelevant. And actually, this is exactly what we need for cars. So let's bring it down here and comment it in. We're going to say let cars, this is the new variable where we're getting it out, equal, comment this out, cars equal cars. And then we're going to say, just kind of control D to get all those. Now you'll notice I can't use dot notation to get into the cars, but I can use bracket notation. So let's see if we get an array first of all in our console. And we do, we've got them all. Because we parsed it back, we stringified it, we parsed it back, everything's all good, looking really good. So now what we can do is we can loop through it or whatever, but if I just want to get, I'm not going to get in a loop, so let's just access the index like we dot notation into the object, and I'll say cars square bracket 0, and we are getting only the Tesla, right? Now I can inject that into my DOM just like I did my name. You know, for the fun of it, let's inject one of these in there. So I'll say document dot get element, query selector. Keep doing that the whole video. And we're going to say quotes hashtag container. That's what I had put over there in the HTML. And we'll do dot enter HTML. And that's going to be equal to cars 0. Okay. And there we got Tesla. So now what we can do is if we want a different car in there, we could say cars 1. That gets us to Mercedes. And if we do 2, obviously gets us that. If we do 3, we're going to get undefined because there's only 3 things in the thing, right? Okay, cool. So now let's talk about this. Actually, I need to keep both of these. Okay, so let's get rid of this parsing and stuff. Let's not worry about that and stringifying. Well, we do need a stringify to place it, and I want you to keep that. So first of all, we're going to do this. So this is placing the cars. Okay, so we have, this is what we have, okay? We have an object. We place it in local storage. We have an array. We place it in local storage, okay? Which they were both there, but I just want to point out we have 2 different things here, cars and house. Okay, now I can remove one at a time. I can say local storage dot remove item, and I could say I want to remove the house. Okay, and now that'll go bye-bye. And now I can remove the car. Okay, and that will go bye-bye. Oh, it's cars. Get it spelled correctly. Okay, so now that one's gone. And this is great. Actually, this is perhaps the one I use the most, is like moving individually. I really can never find a reason to use this what I'm about to show you, but it is part of local storage and it's the last part, so I want to show it to you. So let's put these back in real quick, okay, and get rid of the remove part. Okay, so they're there and I can use them. Now if I want to remove both of them, what I can do is instead of calling remove item, I can say clear. Oops. And clear will remove both at the same time. So here they are both here. I ran clear and it's going to remove them both. Pretty cool, right? So I already showed you like one thing I use local storage for. I think another really cool thing to do with it, and you can practice this at home, and I actually haven't done this for I don't know, probably a year or more, but it's to like make a little local storage to-do list. It kind of gets you familiar with local storage. So now that I've taught you everything, if you have a few more moments, keep watching here, because what I'm going to do, and I hope I do a good job at it, again, I haven't done it for a while, that's my little disclaimer, is I'm going to make a little to-do list for myself to, you know, be able to know what I would need to do, something like that. All right, cool. So let's do this. So I'm going to say to do items, and then I need input. Let's do a form, and we don't want action. We want to, we're going to say input. Okay, the input is needing an ID. This is going to be a to do item. So we're going to say hashtag, not hashtag, geez, that's for the JavaScript, equals to do item, and then we'll have a button, and the button will be add, and then we need we need to listen to this ID. So I'll say equals, we'll just call this the form. Well, let's call it to do form. Okay, so now we should have, let's do this. Let's put a h1 up here. Now, of course, I'm not doing any styling because I just want you to understand the concepts. This is going to be a really ugly to-do list thing, but I'm trusting that if you're looking up local storage, then you have a good gist of CSS and you'll be able to style this. So I'm going to say to-dos, okay? Refresh. Okay, cool. Oh, one thing I do have to tell you real quick because I think it's important, and I hate to self-advertise, but if you're wanting to learn persistent data and you want to do it with a database, I have a great course over at Educative. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're pretty cool, and it's called Full Stack Web Applications with Firebase. So if you were to check this out here, it's really successful. Had been having a lot of people take it, and it's got 42 lessons, 5 quizzes, 20 playgrounds, 94 code snippets, and one part actually, let's take a look at this real quick. So if you go to the course application previews, this actually was made with local storage right here and Firebase. So the name here is faked authentication using local storage, and then this stuff is all persistent data. And then we get into more persistent data by storing photos and stuff like that in a database. So it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're doing here, and then into real authentication where it actually verifies who you are and has passwords and resets and things like that. But enough of that. I think you should check it out if you're into persistent data at all. It's a really great course. I spent actually a year making it, and I'll probably be another year before I release another course. So it wasn't put together in overnight because I wanted it to be really easy to use and really refined. So spend a lot of time on it. I think you'll like it. Let's get off that subject, get back to our to-do list here. Okay, cool. So back to app. What I want to do is I want to make an event listener. This is where we're going to inject all of our items that we want to do. And I want to make an event listener for this form. So I'm going to say, I'll just go ahead and get this this ID. And I'm going to say document dot get, query selector, come on, remember, hashtag. So since I messed this up so many times, I'll explain this. Query selector is kind of new to JavaScript. I mean, it's been around for a year or two, but before that, it was either get element by class name or get element by ID. You can use query selector for both, and I'm trying to switch over to it, and that's why I keep doing one or the other. So dot query selector, and it was an ID, so we do hashtag for IDs, and I'm going to do dot add event listener, and the event listener is going to be submit. Okay, now I'm going to have a callback as usual. Nope, we need a comma there. A callback function. So this is what happens on submit, and we're going to log first of all that it works. Okay, so now we need to submit it. Now there is one problem with it already, and it's going to be that this refreshes. So I'm going to hit submit, and it it'll say works for like a split second if you saw that. Now to prevent that, what we do is we pass in e, which is the event, and then we say e.prevent default. Prevent default. And the reason that we are listening to the submit event of the form and not the click event of the button is because notice right now I hit add and it says works. Now, because I've set up my form correctly, I can actually go to the input and I can put required here. And this will make it so you can't put blank items into your form. So you hit add and it'll say this is actually required, right? Please fill out this form. You notice we're not getting the log over here. If I hit this now, it'll let me do it. So the next step is we want to get this data here. So we're going to go back over to here, and I'm going to say that I want to get that. So I'm going to say var to do is going to be equal to document. It's same thing as you got up here, really. And we're approaching an hour, so I'm going to try to go really quickly, but I think it's going to run over. Let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to say, I think it was to do item. So much for going fast. I have to go back and check this. To do item. Okay, cool. So I got the to do item, and then it's in the word to do. So now I should be able to say to do here. To do, and then refresh, and then type it in here. And oh, I need to get the dot value. Okay. Now, perfect. I got it. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to stick that in local storage. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say local storage. First, we want to see if there's, well, we can do it one of two ways. Let's go ahead and stick it in there real quick. That's going to be the easiest way to understand this. So I'm going to say local storage dot set item. Okay. And the item is going to be let's say list, which has to be in quotes. And then we'll do comma, and then the new to do, right? Okay, let's check this out. It should work for adding one item. It gets more complex when you need more. So if we go to application, boom, bada bing, we got it in there, okay? I'm just gonna show that to you again so that you can see it. It would add it from my form. So I'm gonna say feed the dog, okay? Add, okay, so feed the dog's in there. Let's go ahead and inject that on page load into our to-do items. So I'm gonna say document dot query selector, and we're going to select the to-do items, and then I'm going to say dot inner HTML is going to be equal to local storage dot get item, and there's only one item in there, so this is going to work. In a minute we're actually going to have to loop, but bear with me, I want to build it up to all make sense to you. So I'm going to say get item list. Okay, so it's just one thing in the list. Should work out just fine. We don't want that in there though. No, yes we do, sorry, quotes list. Okay, now we'll do that. Okay, and let's see what happened in our console. Inner HTML of null. Oh, we didn't have the right selector. It's to do. It is the right selector. Hold on. Oh, we don't have a hashtag. Okay, there we go. Now let's see what happens. Okay, feed the dog is in there. To-dos, and then let's do this. So it's more descriptive and it's a little more broken up. Okay, so we've got feed the dog and add to do. Okay, so now what happens when I go and add another one? It's gonna say, you know, eat. Let's say code. I'm gonna always got a code. So hit enter, add. Nothing happens. You don't see anything change up here, but you notice the list says code. So what's happening here? It's the same thing as earlier. Is that we updated storage, but we didn't update our DOM, right? So we can do that by basically saying, you know, let's just make a thing that says update list. Let's say update list. Okay, is going to be equal to this. Okay, and we want that to run on page load. Okay, so if I do this real quick and I run it, watch what happens. Feed the dog isn't there, but if I put update list on page load, it's not in any function or event listener. It'll be there again, right? So it's there. Code is there. That's what's in our list right now. Now what I can do is after I store this to local storage, I can update list again, and I want that to happen again in our event listener. I shouldn't have took it from here, so I want it here and here. So this is on page load. This is when the list gets updated, right? So let's see what happens. So I'm going to say feed the dog, and it updates. Cool, but it's overwriting, and that's our next problem, is that we're getting the list updated, but it's overwriting every time, right? So what we need to do is every single time we make a new to do, is we need to basically put it in an array. Okay, so what we have to do first is we need to check if it's in local, if there's anything in local storage, right? And we called it lists. So we're going to say if local storage dot get item list does not exist. Okay, we did this before. It's very similar to what we did before. We're going to say list equals an empty array. Okay, else if it does exist, then list is going to be equal to getting the list from local storage. I hope this makes sense. I know it's a lot in 1 hour, but it's a crash course, right? So hopefully it's making sense. Let's say let list. Actually, we could, yeah, so let list. There we go. And then now, this is supposed to be let to. And actually, when we update list, we want to actually probably do all this. We want to get list. We're going to end up writing this twice accidentally. So let's do that in a second, though. It'll make more sense if I wait to do that. Let list equal this. Okay, cool. So now we're going to say list. Let's get rid of this real quick. Okay. I'm going to log list so you can see what it looks like. If I go too quickly, it's going to make no sense. And then these are scoped, right? So what we want to do is say let list here, actually. And then let's do this. Let list up here. So we're going to start with a list. And then down here, we'll just rename. We're just going to give it a new value. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to log it here when we hit the submit button, and we're not adding it. We're just seeing what it says. Okay. So let's refresh. And let's actually get rid of this. Okay. So now I'm going to do this. And we're back in our console. Okay. List equals empty array because there was nothing in there, right? So now let's put something in there. Put this back in. Refresh. Okay. It's empty now, but if we add again, then we're getting the list, but it's not in an array, right? We want to add this stuff as an array. So what I'll do here is I kind of have to code multiple things at once. I was trying to code it more in pieces, but what I need to do is when something is created, it needs to be put into the list before it goes into the injector value. Okay, so let's do this. Let's get the value up here, and then let's do this. Okay, so now we'll have the list every single time. We'll have the to-do item. We'll have the list. And then we need to add this to-do item to our list that we end up getting. So now I'm going to say list will plus equal to-do. Okay, cool. Now we can store list in here, which is going to be either an empty array or it will be, okay, so here we're going to say it's going to be this. So if there is no list on let list equal, you know what we should do? Sorry, I'm rearranging this. It's actually a little more complicated than I thought. Haven't done it for a while. Format document. Okay, we need to know what the list is right from the very beginning. Let list. So we don't have to rewrite this. It's gonna help. It's gonna make more sense in a second. So let list equal an empty array. If it's in local storage, we can simplify this. Then it'll become what's in local storage, and then we don't even need the else. Okay, so we just simplified that. Okay. Now in our click event, what we want to do is we're going to get the value from here, and now it'll either be an array or it'll be an array because we set it to an array earlier. So we don't have to worry about that functionality. And then we're going to set it to list, and then that's perfect. And then so now this won't work because it's not looping through an array. But what we can do is we can log it in here for a second. Okay, I think this is going to work out really good. So now let's check this out. Okay. Update list. And then we're going to say we want to actually get the local storage. Sorry. Console log local storage list. That's what I want. The one from local storage. Okay, let's check this out again. Go back to our application. Get rid of this. Refresh. Okay, so I'm going to say hello, or it's not a to-do. Eat. Okay, it got added, but it didn't go in as an array. Let's add it again. Eat. Why is it not going in as array? Oh, I did not .stringify it. So why it's good to learn some of these things up front before you make a more complicated program like we are now. .stringify list. Not for me, I know this stuff, but for you, if you're watching this, we covered stringify earlier. That's what this is about. The array is just kind of going in like remember earlier we said object object? The array is actually just going in as like just words. It's like kind of like parsing it a little differently, and we want it as a JSON object. So let's check this out again. Okay, so add. Oh, and then one thing we have to do is if we do get it from local storage, we want list to be parsed too. So we're going to say list equals list JSON.parse JSON.parse list. Okay, so now we should be in better shape. Add, refresh, get rid of this. Okay, delete, and then add another one. Oh yeah, sorry, I did a plus equal, so it's probably trying to put that in. We need to say dot push, list dot push to do, because it's just concatenating the string, which isn't going to work. Okay. All right. Oh, let's get this out of here real quick. Add. It's not adding. Oh yes, perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Let's try to add another one. Yes. Woo. Okay. Only stumbled through that a little bit. So now we've got a array here, right? It's exactly what we want, and it's concatenating every single time we put it in. So this thing is actually almost done. All we have to do is change this here to loop through and append it to the DOM. And actually, if I did this, and I said I wanted to put in, this is going to evaluate to something, to one thing. The list is going to be an array. So now what I can do is I can say, let storage list equal, and that's going to come to there. And then we're going to say storage list is going to be equal to storage, JSON.parse storage list. And then let's log that real quick. Okay, so what I'm hoping to see now is we're hoping to see a parsed array. It's still, we didn't want it to inject. I'm trying to inject it already. Okay, so this is what I want. Store get item. This is what I wanted. Sorry, I was looking at two different lines. There we go. That's what I want. And then this one is not important at all anymore. Okay. We'll actually use a piece of that in a minute. So let's see what the storage list looks like in our console. Storage list is not defined. You have to have a let in front of it. And it's still not defined. Why? Let storage list equal JSON.parsed local storage list. Oh, these are spelled differently or something, right? Because this isn't highlighted. Storage, yes. Okay, there we go. Now, this is exactly what we want. So now what we can do is, you can see it's giving us an array every time. This is beautiful. So now what we can do is we can loop. So we'll do a for loop and do like that. I do have a really good video on for loops if you're curious what's going on here, and it injects into the DOM, so you can check that out if you like. So now the array is storage list. And now we're going to take this thing and we're going to put it inside here. And we don't need this anymore because we know it's working. And we'll do this, and then we'll say we'll inject. And we're gonna say append. To do items is going to be append. Append. We want to append the storage list square bracket I. Okay. Now this is going to be kind of like all stuck together, so I'll just do a plus quotes like that, and that'll give it a little space. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah, like that. Okay, so let's see what I have here. To-do list. Boom. Look, they're all there. Let's delete them real quick. Application, delete. Now, I'm not going to have time to like make a delete button for these, but I showed you guys how to remove items one by one or to delete them all. I'll let you choose how you want to complete this application. I just want to make sure it's working from the get-go. So let's say there's nothing in local storage, and I'm going to say eat, add, didn't add. length of null update list. So app.js 14. Why is that not working? 14. So it was supposed to push it and then stringify it. Something didn't work. It was working a second ago. Now it's not. Let's log the list here real quick. List. And what error did we get? It was on line 14. Okay, let's get rid of the calling of the update list real quick. Let's just see what happens when we add an item. Add comes as an empty array. That should have worked. So let's go ahead and update the list and see what happens. Fresh, add. Oh, it's going in. What happened here? Something. This is all working. Oh, and it's showing up again. What's happening here? Okay, let's try this again. Oh, oh, you know what I think it is? Oh, I think I know what it is. It's this update list. It's this update list is happening even if list is an empty array, and then it tries to loop in here, and 14 gets messed up because there's nothing to basically loop through. Because this ended up becoming null. So what we can do is we can say if list.length is greater than 0, then run this. Otherwise, don't run this, okay? Like don't even try to inject it if there's nothing to inject. That makes sense? Refresh. Okay, so now let's go to application, get rid of this again, delete, refresh, put that in. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's do this again. Now we have a real list. Let's say eat, sleep, and I hit twice, code. Oh, this is what's happening. You see there's an issue here with the duplicating. It's because we need to clear that DOM every single time. So if we go here before we loop and we set it to an empty .inner HTML, and we set it to like an empty string, it'll clear out every single time. So that's our issue right now. And let's get rid of this in here. Refresh. So I say eat, sleep, and that. So also notice I have to delete this every single time. Every time I hit enter or hit add, I have to do that. Let's do one more thing to fix that. So go back over here, and I'm gonna reset it every single time I get done updating the list. I'm going to .reset, and that will reset the values in the form. Oh, hate when it auto completes like that. Reset. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so groceries. Yes, perfect. So now it's just doing that, right? Pretty cool, huh? Now, one other thing we can do here, this is all actually working exactly the way we want, other than the delete button. I'm going to allow you to work on that if that's how you want to put that in. I recommend doing that. It'd be a nice little challenge for you to finish up your knowledge on this, and it's not terribly difficult, but essentially I'll give you a hint of what you need to do is for every item you need to create a button for it. So inside this loop, you'll attach another button, and then that button will have its own event listener, and then that's how you remove it. That's the only hint I can give you on that, because we're getting over time here for the crash course. So, but I will help you with one more thing, because I don't like the way the list looks, and I think it could look a little bit better even without CSS. And the way we can make it look better is if we create a div. So I'm gonna say let each item div, I'll call it a div, equal document dot create element, and the element is going to be a div. Okay, that's a block level item. That way they're not going from left to right. Okay. They're going to go straight down, which is what I think you would want to see out of the list. So now what we can do is we can go into here, and we can say append child, and the child is going to be each item div. just like so. And something didn't work. Let's see what happens in our console. Oh, let's see. It's in local storage. It should be there. Oh, we didn't fill the inner HTML. So we're going to say each item div dot inner HTML is going to be equal to storage list square bracket I. Okay, that'll get each one of them. Cool. And we could put a class on it or whatever. I think we should put numbers on it. So let's equal it to not only storage I, but let's go ahead and do, we'll do $, square bracket I, which is a number. I is a number. And then we'll put the storage list after that in its own $. So now we'll have numbers next to our list, right? And then hit format one more time. Now there's only one thing in here. Let's clean this up. Let's make it look nice. It took us a few minutes to write this, but wow, look at how clean it turned out to be, right? It's super clean. You can use this at home if you want. Have your kids use it. So now, let's refresh that. 0, 1, 2, 3. We don't want 0, right? So let's fix that. So I'm going to say I is I plus 1. And that'll give us 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 0 through 3. Sweet. And then they're kind of stuck next to the 1. Getting really picky here. Put that here. Cool. 1, 2, 3. And then my final to do will be to upload this video. So what I'll do in a minute. Yeah, so I think it's looking pretty good, right? I think it turned out really good. I'm going to be really picky. I'm going to throw one style tag on here. And I'm going to say that I want the HTML to have a font family of sans serif. I hate the default font. And there you go. Little to-do list that uses local storage. It's persistent as far as your browser goes. It'll even be there if you restart your browser. If you go to like history and clear cookies and app data and things like that, that's actually what it's doing, is clearing this stuff out. Okay, so you can do that to clear it all out if you want, but just know that does that. I'm gonna go close my browser one more time just to prove this to you. Open it, and there you can see it got it and it loaded it back up for me. I can keep putting stuff in here. Oops, man, goodbye. Okay. All right, and that's it, guys. If you liked the video, I hope you did. Please give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be publishing a lot of more cool stuff and just showing you things that I know that I think are really helpful. And yeah, I appreciate any help and support you can give me. It's really helpful and encourages me to keep on making free content like this. So have a wonderful day. Thanks. Bye.